6 p.m. in Guzang in the Momo division, the complete northwest region of Cameroon. Same time right here in Akwa Douala. This is a 6 p.m. edition of the primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. First, our major stories. Bike riders in the city of Bamenda say the activity has been greatly affected from the decision of the senior divisional officer for Mezam, who prohibited them from circulating from 6:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. According to them, the curfew is rather worsening their already difficult living conditions. Gathered in their numbers, the bikers stormed the Bamenda 2 council premises to express their frustration. You were listening to their plight in this news edition. And at least 3 billion francs CFA is lost annually as a result of manual revenue collection of Tollgate fee. The revelation made by the National Institute of Statistics has been criticized by many Cameroonians who think such acts of embezzlement should be blamed for the bad state of roads in big cities and hinterlands. Many are questioning why automatic toll gates are not yet operational. We'll be developing all these stories and more in this edition. Stay with us. Thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe Television. For presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. We begin straight away in the city of Bamenda, where commercial motorcycle riders in that part, precisely in the Bamenda 2 subdivision, say they want the decision of the senior divisional officer for Mezam to be revoked for them to continue their normal activities. The bike riders made their intentions known during a courtesy visit to the mayor of Bamenda 2 Council. Mayor Chinwe Peter, in return, promised talking with the senior divisional officer. We have details with Smart Chikan Gabriel.
Since the prefectorial order of May 31, 2024 stopped the circulation of commercial motorcycles in Bamenda 1, 2 and 3, it has been very difficult for even taxi and private cars to circulate freely in the 3 subdivisions after the given time. Those that circulate at that time are usually burnt by alleged separatist fighters, implying that the day is the best moment for commercial motorcycles to go about their daily activities. With the cancellation of night work, bike riders in Bamenda 2 subdivision say the load is much on them. Reasons for their courtesy visit at the Bamenda 2 council premises to plead with the mayor. The bike riders promise to be vigilant. What we can assure officials of Bamenda 2 is that peace reigns, and we are begging all bike riders in Bamenda 2 to get themselves registered under any bike riders union, so that as a president, when they get into problems, I can stand up for them. In the course of the interactions between the mayor and the commercial motorcycle riders, Chinwe Peter told the bike riders reasons for their suspension.
From security findings, we realized that we have an influx of bike riders that we don't know where they're coming from. It was necessary for us to call the Okada Union, which is we know is well organized, to open their eyes to be sure what is happening in the municipality, because we cannot be saying that there's been a normalcy and then it rises up.
While hoping to serve as a mediator for the bike riders, the mayor sends this advice.
We ask them to be vigilant, to open their eyes, to make sure that those who are here or riding bike should recognize, they should register within the union, or if not, other measures can be taken to make sure that people are person know.
To enable the circulation of motorcycle in Bamenda 2, the sum of 400,000 francs CFA was given to the bike riders to fill their tanks.
Smart Chikan Gabriel reporting there. Away from that, figures from the National Institute of Statistics indicates that over 3 billion francs CFA of tollgate revenue was lost in 2023. This, according to experts, can be explained by the fact that despite the construction of automatic toll gates in Cameroon, the old toll gates are still being used. It should be noted that manual revenue collection of toll gate fees facilitates corruption, as Annabella tells us in her report.
More than a year after the modern automatic toll gates were constructed at entrances in and out of various divisions in Cameroon, the new toll gates are still to go operational. The automatic toll gates, according to experts, will go a long way to reduce or halt the diversion of collected funds to private pockets. After several trials had been done, giving automobile users and Cameroonians hope, the methods of collect went back to manual or archaic. A study by the National Institute of Statistics indicates that in 2023 alone, 3.43 billion francs CFA was lost in the 47 toll gates across the national territory. This means about 30% of toll gates revenue collected was lost. Earlier on in 2015, the National Institute of Statistics, in an evaluation, discovered that an estimated 3.74% of revenue collected was missing. That means about 4 billion francs CFA was nowhere to be found. All this fraud and corruption related to tollgate revenue collection siphoned by individuals and other structures could be avoided if the new automatic toll gates go operational. But it seems we are still far from reality, considering the financial scandals and controversies surrounding the construction of the new automatic toll gates in Cameroon.
Meantime, the nightmare of users of the Awai-Isiswa stretch of road in the center region of Cameroon might soon be a thing of the past. The new road construction company, which took over from those who got sacked, has been commended by officials of the Ministry of Public Works. The technical advisor #1 in the ministry says the accelerating pace of works on the field is encouraging, as Fomi Armstrong Sanda tells us.
On the 33-kilometer stretch linking Awai and Ese, 5 kilometers has already been covered with bituminous concrete by the new company that began work earlier this year. The laying of bituminous concrete, which began on June 5, 2024, aims to protect the base layer realized by previous companies before the termination of contracts.
You can't imagine how much we suffered because of this road. At some moments, we harvested banana and plantains from our farms and simply abandoned everything at the roadside for passerby. Farmers were unable to even have money to buy kerosene.
According to the schedule drawn up by the contractors, the ongoing work should enable a 10-kilometer section to be covered in few days. At the Afamba Bridge, technicians are working hard to reinforce the raft of this framework bridge. At the bridge over River Zwe, access embankments are being developed after the pouring of transition slabs. On a different level, the supply of aggregates are being stepped up. According to the company, there are already some 26,000 tons of 031.5 crush-graded aggregate stocked at kilometer point 38 from Ese on the way to Soa. Similarly, almost some 2,500 tons of crush-graded aggregate have been deposited at kilometer point 33 plus 600. These observations were made during a visit by a team led by the Ministry of Public Works Technical Advisor #1, who, after touring the road under construction, chaired an evaluation meeting at the living quarters of the control mission. The technical advisor also discussed the issues of compensation, reassuring the public that due measures will be taken in the coming days.
And on to something else. Owing to the chieftaincy crisis that has rocked several villages in the Manyu division, the conflict southwest region, the senior divisional officer for Manyu, Awunfak Alieno Eves Bertrand, during the management and stores account session, promised to put an end to this power tussle. He also promised to assist the council realize all its 2024 projects. Malakla reports on the evaluation meeting that recently took place in the town of Mamfe.
Chiefs are selected based on the tradition of each community. In different villages in the Manyu division, southwest region, for example, it rotates from one family to another. A tradition which has not been respected by locals, resulting to conflict between families.
Looking for rotation, from family to family. Your own family.
An elite of the Manyu division, he says the fact that some families refuse to send the chieftaincy title to another is the main conflict they face in the division. A disturbing situation which the newly installed senior divisional officer for Manyu promised to put an end to.
That some people who want to use this chieftaincy school as a step to achieving their goals, which can sometimes be political or administrative or social. We want to put an end to that.
The senior divisional officer was speaking during the management and store account session of Manyu Council. The meeting that was aimed at evaluating the 2023 financial year was attended by traditional and government authorities. The mayor of Memphis said the council was only able to realize 20% of projects due to the ongoing crisis which has slowed down development.
I think that with the recent peace and harmony we are facing in Manyu in particular, I think that the next administrative session we are going to register 80%.
The senior divisional officer on his part is not leaving any stone unturned to bring development to Manyu.
Already invited unscrupulous contractors to come and complete their jobs. We have a deadline for that, and if that is not respected, we are going to go to the next step.
Both traditional authorities and local inhabitants are highly waiting for measures to be implemented in order to end chieftaincy conflict in Manyu.
And now in news out of the country, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has dissolved his war cabinet after the resignation of Benny Gantz. While in Rwanda, the National Electoral Commission this Friday unveiled the names of 3 candidates vying for the position of president. And in Cote d'Ivoire, President Alassane Ouattara in the Congress today reiterated his commitment to reinforce the country's security. Ese Luciliengo gives us details.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu this Monday dissolved the 6-member war cabinet that had been overseeing the conflict in Gaza. Talking to ministers, Netanyahu says the war cabinet was no longer needed following Benny Gantz's resignation a week ago. It should be recalled that the war cabinet had been established as part of an agreement in which the moderate politician Benny Gantz and his National Unity Party joined an emergency coalition last year. Netanyahu is expected to hold meetings about the Gaza war with a small group of ministers, including Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and the Minister of Affairs Ron, who had been in the war cabinet. Away from Israel, for the upcoming July 15th elections, Rwandans will choose between 3 presidential candidates and over 500 aspiring MPs. This was unveiled by the Rwanda National Electoral Commission on Friday, June 14th. Paul Kagame, current head of state of Rwanda, will face Frank Habineza of the opposition Democratic Green Party and Philippe Mpayimana, who runs as an independent candidate. Before the results, 9 candidates were to run for the presidential elections in July.
À l'occasion de cette 4e session du Parlement réuni en Congrès.
And in Cote d'Ivoire, President Alassane Ouattara today addressed the upper and lower houses of parliament. His speech was against popular expectations as he failed to announce whether or not he will participate in next year's presidential election. However, President Alassane Ouattara reaffirmed his commitment to strengthen the security of the country and the operational capacities of the defense and security forces.
And that foreign news done by Ase Luciliengo ends this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. Thank you so much for staying with us on the second part of the news. Many people die in Cameroonian hospitals as a result of medical negligence. Yet, few cases of medical negligence are ever reported and even fewer prosecuted. Long trial periods, corruption, and a general mistrust of the judicial system are a few of the reasons why many Cameroonians think twice before filing a case of medical negligence in the court. Tonight, I'll be receiving a human rights defender, Barrister Tamfu Richard, and we are going to be both discussing on this issue of medical negligence. Good evening, Barrister. It is a pleasure to have you on Talking Point tonight.
Good evening, Immaculate. The pleasure is all mine. I always take it as an obligation to be on your set anytime you invite me.
Barrister, as I earlier said, medical negligence is on the rise in hospitals across Cameroon. We'd like to know from you, what's the difference between medical negligence and medical error?
Under medical circumstances, to understand both concepts of medical negligence or medical error or malpractice, as you rightly said, you need to look maybe at the intent. A medical negligence or malpractice can simply be defined as an act or omission being carried out by a medical practitioner, and while exercising that kind of activity, he causes maybe the death of someone or he causes harm. And within the Cameroonian context, we want to know whether the harm or the death that result is as a result of his intention, he intentionally did it or no. If he intentionally did it, then we can consider that to be a medical malpractice or error. And if it is negligence, maybe out of maybe drunkenness or a situation where he could not foresee it and then it results in the death or the harm of the victim, then we can consider it to be a medical negligence. But what is of importance here is to note here is that under the Cameroonian law, especially the Cameroon Penal Code, we have provisions in the code like sections 289, which defines that if you are a skilled personnel, or like for example a medical doctor, and in the course of carrying out your activity you happen to maybe cause the death of someone, or you cause grievous harm to that person, maybe incapacity of the use of any part of his body, then you'll be found liable under that provision of the law, and you stand to maybe pass or be inflicted an imprisonment term or a fine. Likewise, the person has the right to also maybe institute a civil claim to claim for damages. In that case, you should be able maybe to bring forward evidence to show that actually you suffered any injury from that activity.
Now, Barrister, you talked about evidence. How is medical negligence proven or established with the case of Cameroon where we are now?
It is true that in our context it's very difficult to prove that, but if you are able to do, you should know that you stand to maybe ask for claim. And the best way to go about it, I think, is to ask maybe a counter expertise. And if you request for a counter expertise and it is established that actually what you suspected is as a result of medical negligence or maybe a malpractice, then in that case, before a court of law, the judge will be able to come out with an ultimate conviction that yes, an offense has been committed or not. So the issue now resides at the level of proving it. A counter expertise, I think, to me, is the appropriate form to go about it.
What are some of the challenges encountered by lawyers in Cameroon while trying to follow up cases connected to medical negligence?
Yes, you know, there is always what they call solidarity of core, and in most of the cases you may even request for a counter expertise, and if you are not fortunate enough to really control it well, you may see maybe a situation where maybe a medical practitioner wants to cover his fellow counterpart, and by so doing, all what you are trying to establish or prove may be jeopardized. So you need to have maybe honest people who are ready to commit to the oath of the medical practitioners that they took, maybe to render justice. And if you are able to find such a person, that's where you can be confident of the result of the expertise that is being carried. But if you fall on some medical practitioner who want to cover maybe the trouble or the problems that his colleagues has caused, then you will not be able to come out with appropriate evidence to be able to prove your case.
Now, I guess you must have handled cases in the course of your career as a lawyer. Can you explain to us how it went, and were you able to get justice while handling such cases?
I think that to be on the prudent side, you should make sure that when you request for an expertise it should be in such a way that you have maybe 3 persons to be observant or to be there while the expertise is being carried, so that maybe one could be designated by you, another one maybe you request maybe a judicial police or the court to appoint some person, and maybe you put in again another neutral person, so that at the end of the result of the counter expertise, you'll be able to compare and to know exactly where the truth lies. And I think if you diligently do that, I am sure that you'll be satisfactory with the result, and I think the appreciation of the judge to be able to come to be sure the judge will be able to appreciate the law on your side, and you'll be able to claim for damages.
Who can sue and be sued for medical negligence, and how can a victim successfully prove a case of medical negligence against medical practitioners?
The victim can sue or the heirs or any family member of the person. You just need to show proof that actually, if you are the direct victim, then you should show proof that you suffered maybe a serious harm or injury, or maybe if it is as a result, maybe if the person dies, then the family members can take up legal action, maybe against the medical practitioner himself or against the healthcare institution, if they are able to show that this healthcare institution owed them a duty of care and which maybe was not met. And I think that if you build up the case like I tell you, that you have an option of engaging a criminal action alongside a civil action to claim for reparation of the damages. If you have solid evidence that you have been able to compile with medical certificate attesting to all those medical negligence and maybe the medical malpractice, you'll be entitled to damages at the end, and your claim will depend on what the judge will appreciate, because you may ask for an amount and the judge will have to determine and appreciate.
What's your overall appraisal of the health system or the healthcare system in Cameroon? Are you satisfied?
It's true that we are still struggling as much to be able to reach maybe to the standards of other countries. First of all, the awareness as far as medical negligence or suing for medical negligence or malpractice is not all that frequent or common. And I'm not sure that so many people know that they can even institute an action in court or maybe follow up a case up to the point that they're able to be compensated. I think we still need to make a necessary awareness on that area of the law, and I am sure that if we could have repeated cases or instances where medical practitioners are called to order, maybe are punished for their excesses, or maybe we see institutions being levied high fines or penalties for failure for failure of a duty of care towards maybe a victim, I think that is going to be of help.
What about the medical practitioners themselves? Does the law protect them when confronted with such accusations?
Yes, I think there's a medical order or a medical body where they have maybe rules to guide their practice. I know they take a solemn oath, and I'm sure that if they work within the confines of the oath that they took and make sure that they respect the right of the patient, and they carry out their own obligations vis-a-vis the patient, the law will definitely protect them, because like I said, the victim has to actually prove that there was negligence on the part of the medical practitioner or a malpractice or error before the court will be able to entertain the case. So if the medical practitioner can prove that he acted in all professionalism, I don't think that the court will find, or I don't think that the law will find him guilty or liable for anything.
I'd like to know from you, what can be done to prevent the increasing number of cases of medical negligence in Cameroon?
Well, it's just maybe people should just be conscious. They should know that there is a law that punish people who behave. Maybe if you are a surgeon and you want to maybe operate somebody, and before engaging in the activity you are drunk, you should know that if you engage in such activities, you will face the heavy arm of the law. Maybe you may be sentenced to imprisonment, or you may be slammed some fines. So I think people should know what the law provides, and I think that if you are conscious about what the law provides, then we'll avoid so many of these cases where someone can be prosecuted or sued to court because of medical negligence or medical malpractice.
Thank you so much, Barrister Tampa Richard, for accepting my invitation.
The pleasure is all mine, Immaculate.
And that's it for today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your keen attention. Stay in the company of more interesting programs. Coming up next is Equinoxe Soir, presented by Serge Alain Otu, and exactly 8 p.m. you have the news in French. Have a wonderful evening.